So picture this. You are standing in a bathroom stall, and the door is locked tight.
Oh, we have all been there.
Right. You're just staring at the tile grout, mindlessly scrolling on your phone, basically counting down the minutes until it is socially acceptable to leave.
And meanwhile, right outside that door is some fluorescent-lit hotel ballroom.
Exactly. A room packed with people holding these lukewarm drinks, aggressively swapping business cards, and just reciting those overly rehearsed elevator pitches.
It is the classic dreaded professional networking event.
It really is. And your instinct to just hide in that stall is overpowering, which, we usually internalize as a personal failing.
Right, like we assume we just aren't outgoing enough, or maybe we aren't ambitious enough to play the game.
But the core argument we are exploring today is that this instinct to hide isn't a character flaw at all. It is actually our biology, our underlying humanity, rebelling against a system that forces us into these highly transactional, surface-level exchanges.
Which brings us perfectly to today's mission.
Yes, exactly. Welcome to the 8th installment of our 11-part deep dive into Breeze Dong's book, A Soulful Transition, Finding Heart-Led Career in the Age of AI.
It has been quite the journey so far.
It really has. For the first 7 parts of this series, we focused strictly inward, doing the solitary work of self-discovery. But now, it is time to turn our attention outward.
Time to completely dismantle that soul-crushing concept of networking.
And replace it with what Dong calls a resonance tribe. So, let's start by diagnosing why traditional networking feels so genuinely awful.
Well, to build that tribe, we have to understand why the traditional model triggers our fight-or-flight response. It comes down to operating from what Dong terms the company persona.
And that persona is basically a transactional game, right?
Totally. When we adopt it, we enter a psychological space rooted entirely in scarcity. We put on the blazer, we practice the smile, and we walk into that ballroom to hunt for a lead.
Or a job, or just some external validation. We end up viewing everyone else as a means to an end.
And we know they are viewing us the exact same way. It is exhausting.
Dong brings in this incredibly vivid imagery from wisdom traditions to explain this, the insatiable spirit.
Yes, the insatiable spirit. In various Eastern philosophies, these are depicted as beings with enormous empty stomachs.
But they have these tiny, needle-thin throats.
Right, so they are perpetually starving. They are driven by this constant, frantic craving for sustenance.
Okay, let's unpack this, because in our modern career context, that sustenance is professional validation, isn't it?
Exactly. And the tragedy of the insatiable spirit is that because their throats are so thin, no matter how much they consume, they can never actually feel full.
That imagery perfectly captures the mechanics of professional doom scrolling. We fire off LinkedIn connection requests, we collect contacts like digital trading cards.
Assuming that a wider net equals greater security.
Right. But output-based validation, like someone endorsing a skill on your profile, it just doesn't satisfy our biological need for actual connection. We end up feeding the stomach, but the throat is too narrow to let any psychological safety through.
Which just leaves us feeling utterly alone, and that isolation reinforces this persistent corporate myth of the completely self-made professional.
Oh, the solitary genius who planted their flag at the summit all by themselves. But even Dong points out that is a total lie. I mean, even Batman had Alfred, right?
Frodo had Sam.
Yes, and Buddha had a community. The solitary hero narrative is just a fabrication.
It really is. When you study deep wisdom traditions, you find a formalized structure for the people who decide to, wake up and stop sleepwalking. They take refuge in the 3 anchors.
The 3 anchors. Let's break those down.
Sure. So the first anchor is the teacher, which represents the guide or the internal wisdom. The second is the truth, the actual reality of a situation.
And we spend a massive amount of our professional lives obsessing over those 2. We seek out mentors, we read the strategy books.
We analyze market realities. But the third anchor is the one that actually determines whether we survive a major transition, and that is the Sangha or the community.
Which is so crucial because Don points out that when you go through a career pivot, you enter a space called the void.
Oh, the void is terrifying. You lose the safety of the organizational chart?
Yeah, you lose the automatic respect that came with your previous job title. You are stripped of the institutional architecture that held you up.
And in that void, a traditional network of acquaintances is entirely useless. You need a group of people who care about who you are rather than what you do.
Outcomes versus outputs.
Exactly. You need individuals who can look at the messy, terrifying leap of faith you are taking and offer a grounding presence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because we need to contextualize this for your immediate reality.
Yeah.
The need for a resonance tribe isn't just about emotional comfort anymore.
No, it is highly practical. We are operating in the age of artificial intelligence.
Right, and if we look at what AI is currently capable of, it fundamentally alters the strategic value of different types of relationships.
AI excels at scale and pattern recognition. It can write code, it can generate marketing copy.
And scrape massive data sets. But more importantly, it can scrape the internet to mimic human connections based on proximity and keywords.
It is crazy. An algorithm can easily identify every mid-level project manager in a 50-mile radius and generate a personalized outreach message to all of them in seconds.
So it can recreate your traditional surface-level network instantaneously. Which just goes to show those networks are just fragile, replicable data points.
Precisely. But what AI cannot do, fundamentally, is trust.
Wow, yes. It cannot look across a table, sense your integrity, and decide to take a risk on you.
True community relies on the beautiful, unscalable inefficiency of shared humanity. It requires time and vulnerability.
So if AI makes content and digital noise incredibly cheap, doesn't that mean the market value of realness is skyrocketing?
Oh, absolutely. It becomes the ultimate premium currency.
Because Dong argues that in the future, the most vital career opportunities will not flow through algorithms or automated job boards. They're going to flow through these rare protected currents of trust.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, building a resonance tribe isn't just nice for your mental health. It is a strategic imperative.
Your resonance tribe is an AI-proof network.
Because AI might replace your hard skills, but it cannot replace your unique frequency of consciousness.
But, and this is a big but, there is a massive prerequisite to building that external trust. You cannot connect outward if your inward foundation is broken.
This is where we get into the tough internal work.
Right. Dong introduces this concept called maitri, which translates to inner friendship.
The premise here is that if you go out searching for connection while secretly judging and rejecting yourself, it is like holding a cup with a hole in the bottom.
Any external validation or compliment you receive just leaks right out before you can even process it.
Leaving you desperately demanding another one. So to repair that cup, Maitri asks you to treat yourself the way you would treat a beloved old dog with a limp.
I love that specific imagery.
It is so grounding. If that dog was struggling, you wouldn't scold it to run faster. You wouldn't demand it perform tricks to prove its worth.
You would just offer it a soft blanket and simply sit with it.
Exactly. Inner friendship means looking at your own resume gaps, your failed projects, your awkward transitions, and treating them with that exact same unconditional warmth.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second, because I can hear the listener's counter-argument right now.
Go for it.
Treating my career gaps like an old limping dog sounds very comforting. But if I am operating in a hyper-competitive tech or corporate environment, doesn't that mindset just induce complacency?
It is a totally valid concern, but we have to look at the actual neurological mechanism at play here.
Okay, break that down for us.
Practicing Maitri is not about lowering your professional standards. It is about reducing the crushing cognitive load of self-rejection.
Ah, because that load takes up so much energy.
Exactly. When you walk into a networking room actively feeling like a fraud, your nervous system is in a subtle state of anxiety. You vibrate with this desperate energy.
And we are biologically wired to detect that frequency in others, aren't we?
We really are. It registers as a threat, or at least as unsafe. So you end up actively repelling the genuine connection you are looking for.
Think about it like bumping armor against armor at a mixer. Clank, clank, clank.
Yeah.
You both just hustling for worthiness.
Nobody's actually making contact.
To combat this, Dong suggests a highly practical tool called the friendship pause.
Oh, this is a great one.
Basically, before you walk into an event or before you hit send on a cold outreach email, you literally take a breath and check in. You ask yourself, am I trying to get something to fill a hole right now, or am I trying to share something from my wholeness?
It fundamentally shifts your posture. When you approach a conversation from a state of internal sufficiency, you become a psychologically safe harbor for other people.
But, and this is the tricky part, holding on to that inner kindness is entirely internal. The moment you step into a high-pressure environment, that piece is tested.
Oh, immediately.
There is this compelling story in the book about Dong working with a pioneering Agile team in China that perfectly illustrates this friction.
The winter conference room story.
Yes, it is the middle of winter. The team is holed up in a conference room, managing this massive, complex transformation project. The pressure is immense.
And everyone in that room is wearing incredibly thick professional armor, projecting absolute competence while secretly terrified of failure.
Usually a team retrospective in that kind of environment is just a mechanical exercise, right? Sticky notes and velocity charts.
It remains entirely cognitive. But Dong takes a massive risk and facilitates an emotional retro.
Instead of asking about the sprint deliverables, the simple question posed to the room is just, how are you holding up?
What's fascinating here is the mechanism of what happens next. By introducing a purely human question into an output-driven space, the armor actually cracks.
There are tears, there's laughter. The mask of the company persona just drops.
These brilliant engineers start sharing their actual fears. They talk about the crushing weight of expectations and the toll the long hours are taking on their families.
And it completely rewires the group dynamic. They stop being resources, optimizing a process, and remember, they are human beings surviving a challenge together.
That shared vulnerability downregulates the collective anxiety. It builds a resilience that no velocity chart could ever produce.
It highlights a crucial truth. Vulnerability, when deployed in the right environment, is not a weakness. It is the literal glue of community. But wait, I have to push back here again.
Okay, what's the pushback?
Dropping our professional armor feels incredibly dangerous. We have been rigorously trained to be the round pegs in square holes. We sand off our rough edges and speak in acronyms just to survive corporate life.
That is entirely true.
Being vulnerable in those spaces can and often will be weaponized against you.
Which is exactly why finding your specific resonance tribe is so vital. You absolutely cannot be vulnerable with everyone.
So the mandate is not to walk into a toxic boardroom and lay your soul bare.
Heavens no. The mandate is to actively curate and build specific spaces, what Dong calls campfires, where that vulnerability is actually protected.
So what does this all mean for the listener? How do we build these campfires?
Well, drawing on John O'Bacon's work in The Art of Community, we learn that strong communities do not rely solely on shared interests. They rely on shared experiences.
And in a hybrid or AI-driven world, those default water coolers are basically dead.
Exactly. We have to intentionally manufacture them. To do that, we must shift our operational logic from a consumption economy to a gift economy.
A consumption economy asks, what can I extract from this interaction?
Whereas a gift economy reverses that polarity. It asks, what can I contribute? It is the logic of sufficiency. You operate as a gardener rather than a transaction seeker.
Because AI algorithms operate on rigid, tit-for-tat transactions. Human communities thrive on asynchronous reciprocity. But there's a danger here with AI-generated echo chambers, right?
Oh, absolutely. Algorithms are designed to feed us people who look like us, think like us, and agree with us.
Which is comfortable, but it limits our growth. That is why Dong champions the concept of building a cabinet of rivals, or finding the divergent ones.
The misfits. The people asking annoying foundational questions in meetings without a budget code.
Yes. To find those divergent thinkers, you have to stop hiding your own weirdness. Think of it like a compass. Your weirdness is the beacon that helps your true tribe find you.
I love that. And once you locate those people, the source material introduces a powerful Tibetan practice to build trust called Tonglen.
Which translates to the exchange of heart.
Right. Normally, our default ego state wants to inhale happiness and success for ourselves and exhale our stress onto others.
But Tonglen asks you to consciously reverse that process.
You visualize breathing in the struggles of others with compassion and breathing out relief and joy toward them.
It sounds kind of esoteric, but practically at a networking event, this just means listening for the heaviness in someone's voice.
Exactly. When you hear that struggle, you don't pitch them your services. You simply acknowledge their reality. You just say, that sounds really hard.
Bearing witness without trying to fix it creates an instant bond. Okay, so now that the campfire is built, how do we actively invite people in?
Dong outlines several actionable steps. The first is shifting from working the room to touching base.
So asking soul questions like, what is keeping you busy these days? Instead of just, what do you do?
Exactly. Another tactic is the vulnerable reach out. You message someone about a shared struggle, not bragging about a promotion.
And if the community doesn't exist yet, you become the host. Start a book club for burned-out leaders. Or form a wisdom council with 3 or 4 trusted people. 15 minutes each, and crucially, no fixing. Just listening.
That no fixing rule acknowledges their inherent wholeness. But we also have to talk about protection. Because you have limited energetic bandwidth.
Yes. Dealing with the hook. We all encounter energy vampires.
When you interact with them, you feel a distinct, sticky, anxious trigger in your nervous system. That is the hook. The strategic advice here is to practice distance.
Which doesn't mean aggressively ghosting them. It is just energetic hygiene. You acknowledge the trigger like, I am getting hooked. Set an internal boundary and save your limited space for your resonance tribe.
Because ultimately, navigating the AI era is a team sport.
It really is. There is this beautiful quote from spiritual teacher Ram Dass in the text. We are all just walking each other home.
Networking is simply finding people walking in your direction and asking if they want company.
So for those listening, try one of the experiments from the workbook this week. Do the reach out with zero agenda, or define your 3-person foxhole.
Or ponder the campfire question. Who are the 5 people you would invite to dinner to discuss the riskiest, most honest industry questions?
I love that. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We spend so much time worrying that AI will replace us because it acts so much like a machine.
It is the defining fear of our time.
But maybe the real tragedy isn't AI taking our jobs. Maybe it is the terrifying realization that through years of wearing professional armor and engaging in transactional networking, we willingly turned ourselves into algorithms long before the technology ever arrived.
Wow. We optimized our own humanity away.
Right. If you have been operating like a machine, no wonder you are afraid of a better one taking over. Finding your tribe isn't just about career survival, it is the ultimate act of human rebellion.
A powerful reminder that our humanity is our greatest asset.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We will see you in Chapter 9.